Well, welcome back to CC Rock, James Labrie of Dream Theater. How you doing?
Doing great. How are you doing?
I'm loving it.
This is our 17th interview?
I have a feeling sometimes we haven't done it for about, I think, 7 or 8 years. The last time we've done it. It's been a little while, but I'm sure that sometimes you're looking at me going, this guy again?
I'm not that kind of person. No.
What can I come up with new? I got to come up with something new questions, new world. So we had a little hiatus, a little time. Every time you came to town, I was either out of town, on vacation, or something was going on big. With the small stuff.
Together as such.
That's what I figured. But we were astonishing that this has rolled perfectly this time because we have your newest creation, Astonishing, The Astonishing. A great album, great music, but the caveat to this whole part is that now you're playing Images and Words in its entirety and parts of The Astonishing. How did this come about?
So what was happening is we were, we were out for almost a year touring behind The Astonishing. And then, what was rearing its beautiful head, not ugly head, but was the fact that the 25th anniversary of Images and Words was coming up, and we definitely had to. I mean, that was an iconic album for us. It put us on the map globally. So it was something that couldn't be ignored. So we had to pay tribute to it, and we had to say, okay, so this is what we got to do. All of 17, or most of 17, we have to get behind this album and go out and tour it. So that's how that came about. So it was kind of like, okay, so let's phase out The Astonishing and let's bring in the anniversary tour. So that's how that came about. Yeah.
Well, The Astonishing, amazing album. One song kind of stands out to me, and that's The Gift of Music. And kind of what I'm thinking about with the song, and it's not, I don't know if this is anywhere in context of how you guys wrote it, but the world today, especially in the school system, music is becoming harder and harder to achieve as a child, to learn music, to be taught music, because the public school system, at least in the United States.
I mean, it's really sad, I mean, unless you have a lot of money and your parents are going to put you into private schooling, and and they have ways of getting you into the Ivy League schools like Juilliard and stuff like that. It's just it's very unfortunate. When I was going to school when I was a kid, there was tons of money there. Every school had 1 or 2 music teachers, and you were being taught and educated on all types of music, and so you were immediately inspired to want to connect with this form of art from kindergarten on. Nowadays, it's if you want to have anything to do with that industry, you got to do it outside of the school. Well, for the most part. I mean, it still does exist here and there, but not anywhere near the level. I think it's unfortunate. But I think at the same time, the internet has given people that classroom. If they're very passionate about music, they can go online. They can find any kind of music or any kind of I mean, there's tutorials and everything that exist online as well. So it's kind of up to the individual now to really research it. Forced to bear the lion's share. People just don't have the time for music anymore, and no one seems to care.
one. Our quest for freedom has begun. He will be the answer to our prayers. There walks a God among us who's seen the writing on the wall. He is the revolution. He'll be the one to save us all. My brother Gabriel is all the hope we need. Shining like a beacon in the night. Shut by the greatest skill of reason to believe. Music is that gift he brings. The songbird stops to listen when he sings.
Well, going back to the fact of the Astonishing, the fact that you've got another great album out, and Images and Words, which I remember, I don't know if you remember David Foster. David Foster, well, when they came out with this new thing in cable, it was called DMX. And I remember distinctly hearing over and over on DMX, which had a channel, a rock progressive channel, and this is back in 92, 93, 94 era. And what songs, two songs came up every 20 minutes, and that was Pull Me Under and Another Day. Two songs that have really, you know, catapulted your career. How does life feel going back to that music and that whole album, playing it now?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, as a band and as people, I mean, we reminisce about those times. It brings up a lot of memories. We're kind of reliving the moments back then, you know, when we started out, and the fact that we were, you know, when we first started out with the Images tour, it was the band and the tour manager in a van, driving from city to city, playing little clubs, showering at the clubs, days off, we get a day room. You know, it was kind of like, oh my God, man, you know, like we paid our dues. And then all of a sudden, as you say, you know, Pull Me Under blew up, and it was everywhere on MTV and on radio, and all of a sudden we're, you know, everything had just exploded for us, and it was a completely different world. I think, you know, what it does is it also puts perspective on where we, you know, where we were, you know, just how precarious a business it is. Because if Pull Me Under hadn't taken off, I don't think you and I'd be sitting here talking today. I think that, you know, granted, we would have continued to tour. Would we have been going to Europe, Japan, and everywhere else? Maybe. But to what capacity? I don't know, not very much. And then the thing is that if the album hadn't been successful, yes, the label might have let us do another album, but if that album had been mediocre in the water too because we didn't get any recognition, I think that would have been the end of us. So Pull Me Under really was the catalyst that gave us that template that we were able, or wave that we were able to ride for quite some time, and allowed us to come up, you know, and be doing this 25, 30 years later. So we're very fortunate that did happen. It was, you know, it's all timing, right? You know, I've always said that, you know, even bumping into these guys, you know, from Toronto, Canada, you know, it was timing. I happened to be with a band, Winter Rose. We were out touring with Lee Aaron, who was the metal queen back then. Yeah, and she was hot. She was hot, absolutely. And she approached me, you know, about like, hey, you know, like you should be thinking about doing a solo album. I'm like, no, this is my band. Winter Rose is mine and Rich Chicky, who now works with us as an engineer and mixes our Dream Theater albums and has done some stuff with me on my solo. I said, this is our baby. This is what this is. But anyways, long story short, she, unbeknownst to me, threw the tape down to New York because she heard about this band looking for a singer. Boom. It was all freaking, it's all timing. It really is. And being ready for the time, you know. Like if you get the call, are you ready? You got to do it, and you got to give it your all, you know. So, yeah, it's really, you know, like we'll sit on the bus, or whether we're, you know, when we're going from city to city or country to country, and even sitting backstage, and you know, we just kind of come up with these stories. Oh my God, you remember? You know, and it's just crazy, everything that we've done since then, and what we were doing at the time.
Well, I mean, it's amazing the fact that '92 was that big year, and then you've came on so strong in the progressive rock world. And then, let's face it, the progressive rock world has had some heavy hitters, mostly from the '70s, to be honest, and the '80s. But the '90s, you guys were really the guys who carried the torch. And I think it's so important to have that going on. And today, I don't know if there's that many bands that really are doing that quite good as Dream Theater and all the other bands. Rush, and of course, Rush is no longer. But, you know, who do you see out there? Do you see anybody out there coming on that might be able to kind of carry this forward? I mean, spirit carries on.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of progressive music going on out there, and there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of great artists that are out there. And I think, you know, when I've read in the, you know, the various magazines and online, you know, a lot of them are still saying, you know, the reason that our band is doing what we're doing today is because of Dream Theater and blah, 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 boom. Remember listening to them in elementary school and middle school, and I'm like, what? You know?
Who's feeling old? Who's feeling old?
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, no, I think, you know, like you have the Neil Morris Band, they're still doing it. Pain Salvation, they're still going. You have, well, I think... you know, I mean, right now, like the.
What about Royal Hunt? Have you heard Royal Hunt?
Yeah, Royal Hunt. Oh, yeah, I mean, Jesus, they were around in the '90s and stuff like that.
Never made quite that big in the United States, but.
Yeah, you know, and I think that there are that movement is still going. There's no doubt about it that it's still active but you know, like with me myself, I mean, I'm more into, you know, I'm listening to anybody from like Two Door Cinema Club to. Young the Giant and Mute Math and then you know, Shiny Toy Guns, and like, so I'm like all over the place right now with who I want to listen to and who I find inspiring, and yeah, so I mean, but I think it's cool because we still get that recognition and we still have that nod of appreciation that we kind of made it acceptable again for people to be, you know, to have no parameters and to be creative and, you know, beyond what was to be the norm, because the norm is just so tired.
What do you remember about the Maritime? I mean, it was kind of a dumpy little place. It was like a meeting hall for sailors, I think, of some sort, or unions. Do you remember any of those shows, or what do you remember mostly of that place? Do you have any kind of memories that kind of stick in your head, going, "Ugh," or maybe interesting, or?
I don't know if I was thinking. Yeah, I guess.
I know Mike almost got hit by a car.
There was another place there where I just, where I remember seeing that Jimi Hendrix played and all that. Where was that? Am I thinking of in San Fran?
Jimi Hendrix Experience or the Fillmore? Oh, you played the Fillmore. Yeah. Did you play the Fillmore? I don't remember the Fillmore shows.
I played the Fillmore once.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember walking around and seeing all these posters.
Oh yeah, the Fillmore. Yes.
Yeah, all these bands, and I remember thinking that was pretty cool. I was like, holy shit! Well, if these guys were here, hey, that's okay. We'll do it. But no, I don't remember every single venue. Although when we do go back to similar venues, automatically, obviously, you're, oh, geez, I remember this room. I remember this room. But yeah, some of it has kind of withered away, so to speak. Yeah.
I remember you running out of gas on the bridge. I remember that night.
Oh yeah.
That was a night we stayed a late night for James that night.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Here we are.
You made it. You made it though. That was the key.
We did. Yeah, we did. We made. Holy Jesus, man! As if you remember that stuff. Yeah. Wow.
Read some memoirs of this, and I don't know. Well, obviously you're 54 now, and you're still in your prime. Your voice is still great in the rock world, because let's face it, there's people like John Anderson, Rob Halford, Robert Plant, who are in their almost 70, early 70s, late 60s, who are doing this. What do you think in your head when you go out there on stage? Do you ever think someday, there's something here I really love, but there's something like maybe down the road, maybe not? I don't know. Is there something, a part of it you ever burned you out?
Depends on how you feel. I think if you're feeling sick, yeah, you go out on stage and go, this sucks, okay? I do not want to be here, and I think anyone else would tell you the same thing. I mean, you're not feeling well, that's the last place you want to be, but you're expected to go up there and give it your all, and they don't want to hear about that. The fans paid damn good money to see you perform, so give it, But I think, I think for the most part, I would like to see that Dream Theater as an entity, that we'd be doing this for at least another 10 plus years. I really do, and I see that everyone is kind of collected. We're all in agreement to that. But 68, I don't know. I really don't.
Sounds heavy, doesn't it?
It sounds really heavy, man. Like, that's freaking heavy. I mean, I think that when, and I remember saying this to Jordan when we were over in Asia. I said, I can see 68. Me playing guitar and singing Dream Theater songs in a more acoustic setting and version. And and playing little intimate clubs and just having fun with it that way. But who knows what's in the cards? Like, it might be like, yeah, man, it was 68, and so we're gonna do, oh, well, that sounds interesting. Sure, I'm on board. Let's go for it. But I think it has to always make sense. I think the day that someone's just saying, the reason you're gonna do this is because of this, and then I take the bait, then it's all wrong. It's all wrong, at that.
How many bands are doing that these days? It's crazy.
I mean, it's because it's extremely tempting, but how wrong is that, right? That you're there and your heart's not there, and you're just saying, "Let me get through this." And when's the last show? And I can't, like when you start thinking that way, that's scary. That's wrong. But I hope to be, right now I think that we're all having an incredible time out here. And I think that's what we're riding on right now, and we hope, we're all looking forward to the next album. We all pretty much know where we want to go with the next album. You know how I am, I don't talk about it, but we have a clear vision of what it needs to be in direction, where we want to take it. So that's exciting. I mean, we wouldn't be, that won't be out until 19. 18 is just going to be rest time. And then get into the studio and then write and record and then come out with a new album in the 2019 and then start another tour.
How has the process changed? I mean, since '92, when you're in a little tour bus, obviously, but that's the tour side. The recording side, how has life changed from '92 to now to actually creating a record album? disc, whatever it is.
You know, everyone, if you feel something, you jot it down. Like, you know, thank God for these things, because you got a riff in your head or a melody or anything like that. You just want, you know, you don't want to lose it. So, and I also know that you know, when we do sound check, if somebody starts jamming on something, we are always recording. We have Pro Tools. We record every show as well, so we have tons of that to go back to. But so there's, you know, there's sound check. If there's a seed there, we earmark it, and then it's, you know, it's about individually what we're doing when we're home, and then bringing that together when we get together. You know, when we start to write and say, here's some of my ideas, and then they go, okay, here's some of what we got, let's start listening to this, and then we filter through it, eventually finding, you know, here's the good, there's the not so good, let's forget about that, and then still being connected as five guys in a room, getting onto something, you know, and going, wow, wait a minute, what was that, you know, and just forming it like it was before. Yeah.
Was it always five guys in a room back in the older days? I did Neil Morris interview recently, and I love his new album. Neil Morris is one of my favorite artists I've ever met and talked to. But, you know, obviously Neil Morris, that whole thing wouldn't have happened if Mike hadn't probably have gone his other ways. I mean, was it different then?
Well, I think, you know, here's what I've always said. The primary writers, kind of, your instrument lends itself to being, you know, a composer pretty much, and piano and guitar are the primary instruments for writing. So John Petrucci and Jordan, as it currently is, are the primary writers, you know. That doesn't say that, you know, myself and Mike and John don't get involved. We do, absolutely. But it's, you know, I think that's always been the case, right from the very beginning of Dream Theater, even when Kevin Moore was there. And John Petrucci, you know, a lot of the seeds always came from those two. Right. And yes, other members always got involved, and, you know, and said, you know, well, let's try this, try that, and like that. However you go about putting and interacting with one another and composing and putting something together. And that still kind of exists today, you know. There's that interaction, you know, when it comes to composing. So it's pretty much, you know, like I said, it's always been that the riffs and that seem to stem from those instruments. And not to say that somebody else isn't coming in and going, here's an idea that I have, or feeding off of somebody's melody, or feeding off even a lyrical idea. You know, these things also play into it. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, just seeing you guys on stage, it's so much. It looks like so much work, and that's the part that's amazing to think about a band like Rush to doing it.
3-hour show, you know, it's every night. Yeah.
That's what's incredible too, is that the energy level of what you guys do on stage is what blows me away more than anything about Dream Theater. And not to say that the music and the sounds are just amazing to go with it, but the energy level. How do you do it so many dates a year?
Yeah. Adrenaline, thank God for that. You know, because I've always said that, you know, if you're not nervous before you go on, if you don't have the jitters, then you're dead. You know, what the hell, man? You know, but I think that it has to do, it all has to do with, you're excited. You know, you got thousands of people up front. They're freaking pumped. You also have to remind yourself, or you shouldn't really have to, but it's there. You know that, hey man, this is the only time they're seeing you. Okay. They pay good money to come and see you tonight. This is their moment. You know, this is what they're going to walk away with and have to hold on to for the next 2 years, because that's probably how long it's going to be before they see you again. So let's leave it with a bang. You know, let's leave it so that it's undeniable to them, so that when they go away, they go, oh my God, that was freaking awesome, and I can't wait to see them again. That's the idea, you know, and then you're having fun. You know, you don't want to look like you're in pain up there, you know, but no, so I think, you know, and everybody's the same. It's so funny because sometimes you can go through a real low, like an hour before the show, you're like, oh my God, I think I could go to sleep right now because I slept like crap last night. You know, like you might have, you know, sleep deprivation or whatever, right? So you're there and you go, holy shit. And you can only do so much caffeine, right? Because after a while, it's just like, that doesn't even have an effect. In fact, that might even put you down. So it's so funny because, you know, we were, throughout the course of the last 2 years that we've been touring, you know, every so often John will come up to me and goes, oh my God, I just woke up and it's like, John, we're on stage in 20 minutes. Holy shit, I know. And he's like, you know, he's going crazy on his guitar, warming up. And I'll be the same way, but you know, like you just feel it building up and you can hear the, and you start getting into it. And by the time you're like hitting the stage, it's like, wow, you're right back to feeling like you're 20 years old. You're pumping 300 pounds above your head. It has to be that way, or what the hell?
We've seen that. We've seen shows. I've seen shows like that where you're kind of like, oh boy.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of this final word is that when you leave the fans with great images and words, that is what brings you back again.
There you go. Yeah, that's why we named it that.
Thank you, James. You're always a great guy. I love seeing you again.
Cool. Absolutely. Thank you.